Jay-Z, an MC from Brooklyn, New York, releases his debut LP, Reasonable Doubt, in June, the 25th of June, 1996. This album was through Rockefeller Records, his own imprint with Damon Dash, Biggs Burke, and also distributed through Priority. Now, Jay-Z and MC, he came out in the 1980s with Big Daddy Kane, Jaz-O, Big Jazz, whatever you know him as. And Jay-Z had been around for years, in the industry, around the industry for years, but he found it difficult to find a deal, find a home. All the people that he's been around the last 10, 20, 25 years, they knew who he was in the early 90s, but they didn't see anything in him. They didn't want him, whatever the case. In the early 90s, Jay-Z, he was always known from going flow, from one flow to another. He rapped like Jazz, then he rapped like, Das Effects. He rapped like the double time, all this type of stuff. At that time, he gets on the Big L's album, I believe in 95, The Graveyard, and that's when his flow was a little bit different to what he became known for. So he was transitioning. 95, he releases In My Lifetime remix. He has this new flow, no longer speed rapping. It's more slowed down. He always had great breath control. And then he starts recording Reasonable Doubt. In the recording of this album, he's around Biggie. Him and Damon Dash making their rounds. They get the deal through Priority Records to put this album out. Now, in the build-up for this album, in early 96, Jay-Z, he did do an interview. I believe, I want to say it was with Tim Westwood. It might have been elsewhere. I'm sure he did plenty of interviews, but in the interviews before this album, he was talking about this being his one and only album, or he looked at it as this is one and only effort he's going to put out. Because at this time, I believe Jay-Z might have been 25, maybe 26, 27. So at the time, that was kind of seen as being old for a rapper, especially if your first album. He even, in the interview, called himself an old rookie. And, but on this album, he was able to get Mary J. Blige, Biggie Smalls, Foxy Brown, who was on fire at this time. He brought along Memphis Bleek, who I believe was maybe, 15, 16 on this album. Jay-Z wrote his verse, more on that later. And, of course, on his first album, he has to bring along the man who put him in position in the first place, Jaz-O. Now, this album comes out in the year of 1996. To me, 96 is the greatest year in hip-hop history. There's so much coming out in this album. This album comes out in the middle of All Eyes on Me, Muddy Waters, the Fuji Score, Nas It Was Written, Ghostface Iron Man, Mobb Deep soon will release, Hell on Earth. So many albums in 96. And Jay-Z, he had been known in certain circles. Razzcast has stories about him. A lot of his flow that he actually switched up from, a lot of his flow, he got his flow from Camp Lo. And that'll be on this album later on too. But like I mentioned, he was next to Biggie Smalls, so that means he's in the crossfires of Tupac, who's on a rampage in the year of 96. And off that year alone, there was song after song, and later album after album that had Jay-Z disses in it from Tupac. I mean, getting dissed from the grave, god damn. But let's start this one. The intro, Can't Knock the Hustle. This is a classic Jay-Z record. This was a set-off. This was kind of like his, this is his debut album, but this is a debut also in the sense of new look. In 94, he had the song Can I Get Open. He has a bald head. He's wearing the Reggie Miller jersey. In this video, on the album cover, he's in a suit, well-dressed, Dame well-dressed. It was a reintroduction of Jay-Z. Mary J. Blige on this. This is a classic song. It was a sample of, I believe, Melissa Morgan, if I'm saying her name. I think, is it her name? She spelled it like Melissa or whatever. Melissa Morgan, whatever her name is. I forget how to say it. But I believe it was Fool's Paradise. And they took this, and there was a remix of this, of the actual Fool's Paradise beat. But this was a set-off intro. This is a very good song, good intro. Really, I'm not even gonna waste no time. This album is a 5 mic classic album. This is one of the greatest albums in the history of speech, in the history of music, in the history of sound. This is one of the greatest albums ever made. Um, but more on that later. Track 2, Politics as Usual. I love this song. Um, we'll get to it later, but to me, Politics as Usual and Regrets are Jay-Z's 2 greatest records he ever made. This album is full of introspection. It's storytelling, but it's more introspection, which to me is the best type of rap. Because that's where you get down to the root of someone, the soul of someone. Great song. This album they called it back then the Mafioso. This album is, you could say, is about drug dealing, but this album is about life. This is about failure, success, ups and downs, death, destruction, murder, ignorance, logic, illogical actions and thinking. Track 3, Brooklyn's Finest. This is one of the greatest back and forth collaborations, whatever you want to call it, ever. Him and Biggie going back and forth. Clark Kent on the beat. I mean, it's like you're on a song with Biggie Smalls in his prime. This is '96. He's the king of rap right now. Him, Tupac, Nas, these are the kings of rap. And Jay-Z's on this record going back and forth with him, and he's not getting outdone. They're neck and neck. This is one of the greatest songs ever. Dead Presidents Part 2. Now, Dead Presidents Part 1, that came out in '95, I believe, as a single. I like Dead Presidents 1 is good to me, but I always like 2 better. Ski Beats, who was heavy on production on this album, this is one of the greatest uses of a sample. Ski Beats from Original Flavor, another one. A lot of this album, like I said, was Jay-Z. He brought along those who were with him. He did records with Original Flavor. So Ski Beats is on here. Jaz-O, he's on here. Dead Presidents. So many rappers have freestyled over this beat. Just the production on this album is like, how could you not feel the production on this album? It's unfortunate Jay-Z never really returned to the formula of this album ever. We're gonna. I don't. Did he ever? I don't know. Did he ever work with Ski Beats after this? Like, to me, like I don't know how he doesn't. But more on that later. Track 5, Feeling It. Love this song. Mecca sings the hook on it. Jay-Z had a video for this. The video kind of reminded me of, because at the same time Nas had the Street Dreams video, and Nas was wearing the pink suit that he got clowned for at the time. But Jay-Z in this video, he kind of had like the bright looking suits too. But I don't know if that's when the Nas, he does have a Nas obsession, and you'll see that on this album. On Dead Presidents, like the previous song, he samples "I'm out for presidents to represent me," So the Nas obsession, it was there. It was there. Devils or The Evils, great song. This is Premier. I love when he worked with DJ Premier, but he stopped working with him. I think the last time he really worked with him was on Volume 3. I don't know why. Why did he never go back to Premier? Why did he never go back to Ski Beats? The only thing I can think of is, but it wouldn't make sense as far as Premier, but it's like when this album came out, Jay-Z loves this album. He cherishes this album. He adores it. And it really bothered him that this album did not sell well. More on that later. So maybe it was, well, I had this person doing most of the production and it didn't sell, so maybe that's why I didn't go to him. At the time, Ski Beats was also working with Camp Lo, and I believe Ski Beats told a story about, I think Jay-Z wanted more work with him, or to go on tour, or something tour or more beats, but like Ski Beats was like, no, I can't do it right now, I'm working with Camp Lo. Now, Feeling It, actually, let me go back, I'm all over the place, pardon me, I'm all over the place. Feeling It was actually originally a Camp Lo record, and if you listen to the original version, which obviously came out before Jay-Z's version, Jay-Z is taking some of their material, it's like he took their flow, I believe some of the same bars, they might have had the same chorus, maybe elements of the same chorus, but it's like Jay-Z has been a biter from day one. Now, I don't know, when you talk about Jay-Z being a biter, that's something undeniable, but you have to think, he been in the industry since 88, 89. He been around everywhere. No one wanted him. No one accepted him. So at this point, when he makes this album, is he thinking, I gotta take from this. I gotta somehow get the biggest features. I gotta get, I might have to take your flow. Might be it. This might be my one shot. So maybe out of that desperation, maybe he became a biter. Maybe it was after I have to take because he ended up taking, years later, he took Can I Get Her from Ja Rule. He took Give It To Me. That was Emilio Sparks' record. Took Emilio off the verses, left him on the chorus, and then that's his song. He doesn't credit him. So maybe that all the years of being rejected built an insecurity in him. Plus, he looked like a dehydrated camel in the face. But the Evils. They sample Snoop Dogg. They sample Prodigy on this great song. Talking about the evils of this world and what have you. 22 Twos. This is when he shows off, wordplay, lyrical ability. This had the Maria Davis skit on it. I believe later on, didn't he do like a 44 Fours, like a tribute to this, I believe? Maybe like 10 years later, I think. Can I Live? Another one. This is a great song. This album was famous for the soul samples. This album, Isaac Hayes samples. I forget his name on this sample, but Can I Live? This is a record that's interesting because in a lot of the records on here, they don't really have bridges. They don't have choruses. They're not really a break. Jay-Z, like these verses is not 16 bars. A lot of these verses is, 48, 64. Like, he was going, even though he had been rapping a long time, he was still kind of at the not really into song format yet. So maybe that's another reason why he never went back to this formula. A lot of this album is really just rapping. I think the sales of this album affected Jay-Z, his psyche, and his thinking forever because he never rapped like this on any other albums. He doesn't have, 4-minute records where the bars is 60 bar verses. Like, no, Jay-Z quickly got to like 16 hook, 16 bridge, hook, outro, And, I believe on Blueprint, he even said Reasonable Doubt should have went triple platinum. And it should have. But it did not. But, he got his success later. The sample for Can I Live, I believe it was an artist named, oh my god. Oh, Can I Live was Isaac Hayes. I was thinking of another record. I was thinking of Coming of Age, which is Eddie Henderson. But, we're almost to that. Friend or Foe. This premiere returns. Not Friend or Foe. I'm all over the place. God damn. Ain't No Nigga. This is a great record. Jazzo had to play this live because whatever machine or technology they were using, it wasn't functioning properly. This was I believe this was Jay-Z's first maybe hit song or a song that really charted with Foxy Brown, who was on fire at this time. Foxy Brown, 95. She was coming off of she was doing a lot of great features. She was coming off the I Shot Ya remix with LL Cool J. This song blew them both up even more. Friend or Foe. I never really liked Friend or Foe. I pretty much love every song on this album, but Friend or Foe is all right to me. Coming of Age. This is a good song, storytelling song. It's the perspective of a young and older. The pursuit of money, ups and downs, being smarter than the others, perspective of perspective of a younger person and a slightly older person. Jay-Z, he definitely ghost wrote this verse for Memphis Bleek. Memphis Bleek, I believe he told a story like he went, like he took some of Jay-Z's money, went to McDonald's, got a bunch of McDonald's, then came back and recorded the song, and Jay-Z was mad at him, or some shit like that. But, good song. I don't know if this song had the greatest mixing. I don't know if I have, my MP3 version is messed up or something, but to me, Coming of Age, it always seemed like it was kind of mixed too loud. I don't know if that was just me. I think I might have downloaded that on LimeWire years ago and just always kept that same MP3. But it always sounded like it was too loud. Cashmere Thoughts. This song was alright to me again. This is like the Clark Kent section of the album. Cashmere Thoughts. This was when at this time also a lot of rappers were having like the aliases, like Tupac, Machiavelli, Biggie, Frank White, Nas Escobar, Ghostface, Tony Stark. And Jay-Z at the time, his alias was Cashmere Brown, which he immediately dropped. he Cashmere Brown. He dropped that after this song. But this song is alright to me. A bunch of it's supposed to be like some player shit, some Fly Mac shit. This album is heavily influenced by 70s music, so this song, I grew up on Superfly, some shit. Bring It On, I love this record. Sauce Money, one of the most underrated MCs of all time, appears on this. Jaz-O, great verse. Jay-Z, young Bobby De Niro. How he starts his verse. This album is just well put together. DJ Premier returns. And the outro, Regrets. Once again, to me, Regrets and Politics as Usual is two of Jay-Z's greatest songs. This song about living with regrets and not being stopped by it, Now, if you have the limited edition version or the bonus version, it has, like I said, the Melissa Morgan Fool's Paradise remix of Can't Knock the Hustle, and it has Can I Live Part 2, great song. And it also has Dead or Alive Part 1. Now, Dead or Alive Part 1, this song is actually a song that's been rarely heard, but this was supposed to be like a subliminal diss at Tupac. And Clark Kent told some story, and Clark Kent looked like a goddamn clown and a fool telling the story on Vlad. He was telling some story about, like, after Tupac passed, Jay-Z performed this after he died, and we just had to get this off. And Clark Kent was sitting on Vlad's couch smiling like a goddamn jackass. You're smiling because you dissed someone who's dead? Clark Kent is a clown. And that song is so, like, mediocre. It's not even a good diss song. But the original album, the 14 tracks, this album is a perfect hip-hop album. 5 mics, classic, iconic. You cannot talk about the history of hip-hop music and not speak on this album. This album, I don't care what no one says, this album is top 3 rap albums ever made. To me, number 1 is Illmatic, but, this album is top 3 rap albums of all time. Top 3. If you say it's number 1, I wouldn't argue, but it's definitely top 3 albums ever. Now, when it comes to the formula of this album, like I said, Jay-Z, he never, this album is soul samples, it's music he grew up on as a child, it's record player music, it's vinyl music, but the rhyming was intricate, it was introspective, and Jay-Z never really returned to this. Now, has he made records that had soul in them? Yes. Samples in them? Obviously, yes. Introspective? Yes. But a whole project? No, he hasn't done that. And I think it's because this album meant so much to him, because this album was his life to that point, and it only sold at the time 300,000. Now, 300,000 was horrible at this time. In 1996, this album sold 300,000. That is horrible at the time. Tupac is selling 5 million, and even more than that. Whenever they mention the Tupac All Eyes on Me, like, it sold 5 million, it sold way more than that. But for some reason, it's like people are just stuck at 5 million. But it definitely, that album has to be over Diamond, like clearly over Diamond. But it's like, Nas, it was written, I believe that went triple platinum, and Jay-Z, who's a new artist, he sold 300,000. Now, he was a new artist. He was only known in the New York scene, really. He had great features, and who knows, maybe the Biggie and Mary J features what got him even to that much. But also, you have to remember, he has his own imprint, Rockefeller. At this time, he did something that would be, long lasting, which is he had his own imprint, his own label. Tupac didn't have Machiavelli Records yet, and he wouldn't, unfortunately. Biggie didn't have his own label yet. Nas didn't have, Ill Will yet. So Jay-Z actually did something that Master P, very few rappers had their own label. Nas and these people, they were signed directly to Columbia or Interscope or whoever. So that was smart, but he had to go through Priority for distribution. And Priority, which is known for, being cheap. But if you know certain stories about early '90s West Coast artists, not just Ice Cube, other artists too. But so maybe the distribution played a part. But the fact that it sold so little, that always bothered him. Jay-Z's an insecure person. You can tell that. He's a Sagittarius, can't get over shit, insecure, all that type of shit. That asshole sarcasm, like the fake cool guy sarcasm, all that type, all that shit. And this album always bothered him that it didn't sell much. But then, you know, 2 years later, Hard Knock Life 5.5 million. I'm sure he liked Hard Knock Life, but this was like his child, his infant, his baby. He wanted this to be the big one. And over time, this album did reach platinum. I think this album might be at triple platinum by now, but it wasn't like that for years. This album did not start getting the acclaim that it got, the classic it's seen as now. It did not get that for years. I think maybe around like Blueprint, maybe around Black Album. That's when people really went back and like this is his best album. And I think the fact that it didn't do so well financially, numbers wise, I think maybe that's why he didn't return to Ski Beats. He did, he did work with Premier. The next album, Premier sets it off with 1,000,001 Questions, classic intro, great Aaliyah sample. He had Premier on Volume 3 on So Ghetto, and I believe another record on there. I can't remember, but. And even like Clark Kent, like I don't remember him really working with Clark Kent like that. So he kind of abandoned the soul samples for a whole album. Kanye West kind of brought it back on Blueprint, but he never returned to that formula. I wish he would a little bit. In ways he did, like American Gangster. That's in a way he did, but American Gangster's all right to me. I'll review that one day, but he did in ways return to it, but not all the way like this. But this, like I said, 5 Mic classic album. This is a perfect album. Love this album. And that is it. Like, comment, subscribe.